Well, good morning, Bay Shore. You guys excited to be at church today? It is so good to see you guys. If we haven't met before, my name is Cotter, and I am the Next Steps pastor here. I'll tell you what, it makes me feel at home seeing all the Eagles jerseys in the room. That gets me psyched up this morning. But hey, I'm so glad you guys are here and that you came out to church this morning. We also have a crew that joins us online every single Sunday through YouTube, Facebook, and the podcast. So can we make some noise for our online family? Well, this is one of the best times of the year. The summer heat is kind of, sort of starting to ease up. It's not like 90 degrees like it was a couple days ago. And the roads and beaches are starting to clear out. And this is one of my favorite times of year, mainly because football starts today. Is anybody else excited about that? First Sunday of football. Man, I'm so excited about that. Football is a really big deal to me. If you know me well, it's probably too big of a deal to me, probably too much of a priority in my life, but I absolutely love it. And this is something that has been ingrained in me since a young age because my family has always gotten together whenever football is on. We got together this past year for the Super Bowl. We got a picture we can put up of us. So that's me and my brother and sister and our parents. We didn't get a jersey for the dog. We're working on that. That was all of us at the Super Bowl. Obviously, we took this while the game was still happening because it didn't really go all that well. But getting together for football is something we have always done since we were kids. Like growing up, we would always get up on Sundays in the fall and go to church together, and then we would come home. We would watch Fox NFL pregame when we got home and just sit there as a family and watch football like all day together. And then in college, I went to kind of like a local school. And so on Sundays after church, I would get out of church and I would drive down to my parents' house every Sunday in college, watch football with them. And still, as an adult, every Sunday in the fall, I leave here and I go straight to my parents' house. Today, my son Taj and I, we are going to go to Laurel and go to Pizza King and get some pepperoni pizzas. We're going to go drink some Mountain Dew and watch football all night long. My son has been talking about it all week. He's 2, so he's not going to drink Mountain Dew. But maybe when he gets older, we'll see. Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking like, it sounds like he likes his family, but he probably just goes to his family's house because he is too cheap to pay for Sunday ticket. And that's kind of accurate. It's not in the budget. It's definitely not in the budget. But look, that's not the reason I go down there. You know, football is great. I love it. But the best thing about football is being able to get together with my family and to be able to hang out with them, experience it with them, because football is great, but it's way better when I'm with the people that I care about. And life is that way too, isn't it? Life is so much better when we are with the people that we care about, people that care about us, that are invested in our lives. And so we're in the series this morning called Where's the Party? And today we're gonna see a big time party, an absolutely massive party, so big that they ran out of room. And so this week was a pretty significant week for me personally. This past Thursday, the 7th, that marked 10 years since a major skimboarding injury that I got. And so 10 years ago, I was down here in Rehoboth skimboarding. It was Labor Day weekend, and I took this wave. I had a rough fall, and I hit my head really bad. I had a concussion for like 9 months. I was in a dark room, couldn't really watch TV, I couldn't really talk, I couldn't walk. When I would try to read books, the words looked like they were just misplaced and didn't go together. So it was a long year, and so it's been really cool this week just kind of thinking back and being like, man, like that was 10 years ago. Just kind of thinking about all the things that God has done in my life since then, all the healing. I mean, I can walk, I can talk, I can read, I can do all these things. I've just been so grateful, just kind of taking time to look back at where God has brought me over the last 10 years. And so one of the moments that really stands out to me from that whole situation, something that happened a couple days after that injury. And so I hit my head on a Saturday. And so at the time, it was a concussion. I was like, 1 or 2 days, I'll be fine. Like that's what football players do. I'll be good. I'm not as tough as a football player. And so a couple days later, so that was a Saturday. Monday morning, I got up and I drove to work. And I went to work and I was sitting in our meetings. And after about an hour, I realized like, I'm not really healthy enough to be here. And so I went and got in my car and drove myself home. I lived about 5 minutes from work at that time. And so on that 5-minute drive, I'm driving home and like the only way I can describe it is like it seemed like everything started slowing down. And so like my ability to process things, it all kind of started slowing down. And then like it felt like my body was like shutting down. And so on that real short drive, like I got home, I parked out in the street, and I tried to get out of my car, and I was like, all right, let's get out of the car. And my body like wouldn't respond. And it was one of the weirdest things. And so I like got out, and I was able to like, my legs weren't working, but like my arms were. So I like army crawled out in the streets up my driveway. My neighbors must have thought I was the weirdest person in the whole neighborhood. And so I'm army crawling my way into my house, and like it was hard for me to see. And so I get inside, and I'm like laying on the floor in my house alone in the middle of the day. And I was like, honestly, I thought it was over. Like I thought that was it. And I'm just laying there alone, and I was just like, man, like this is it. Like I lost my life skimboarding. That's a pretty lame way to go. So I'm just laying there, and I'm like, heavy situation. And then out of nowhere, my buddy Danny walks in the front door. I don't know how he got in my house. That dude does not have a key to that house. I don't know how he got in there. But out of nowhere, he comes in, and he had been in the work meeting with me a few minutes before that. And so I only assume that like maybe he realized something wasn't right, and so he came to check on me. And so he came in, and he found me. He grabbed my phone, and he called my parents. He got me a ride to the hospital, and he just kind of sat there and told me jokes or something. I honestly have no clue what he said, but he was trying to like, get me uplifted and kind of keep me focused and stuff. And he just sat there with me, and it was like the most selfless thing that like anyone has ever done for me, the kindest thing anybody's done for me. And Danny was a friend, but I met Danny because I started going to his small group. And so he worked at a church that was close to my college, and so me and some of my friends started going to his Bible study, and so we would all just hang out every single week. We would get together, and Danny would teach us about the Bible, and then we would just hang out and have fun together. And so Danny was like a friend for me. He was a small group leader for me, and he was there for me on like literally the worst day and scariest day of like my whole life. And so that was 2013, fall of 2013. So fast forward like a year and a half, almost 2 years later, and like I'm feeling better. It's 2015, and we got a picture that we can toss up from this 2015. Okay, so this is my wedding day, best day of my life for sure. Right between Emily and I, that's Danny. So he was there for me on literally the worst day of my life, the scariest day of my life, and then a year and a half later, he's there for me, officiating our wedding, celebrating the greatest day of my life, and that just encapsulates my relationship with Danny. Like he's there for me in the hard times. He's there for me in the good times, and we all need those kinds of people. We all need those people who are looking out for us, people we can have fun with and grow with, but people that are also there in the hard times in life. And so today we're going to be reading a story from the book of Mark. If you got your Bible, you can turn there. We're going to be in Mark chapter 2. We'll have all of our verses on the screen this morning. Got free Bibles in the lobby if you want to follow along that way. So Mark chapter 2, let's put this up. So starting in verse 1, it says, a few days later, when Jesus again entered Capernaum, the people heard that he had come home. They gathered in such large numbers that there was no room left, not even outside the door. And he preached the word to them. So Jesus comes to this place known as Capernaum, and this verse 1 says that he was entering there again. And when we see like phrases like that in the Bible, when we see the word therefore or this happened again, it's always a good idea just to kind of rewind a little bit, go back a chapter or two and kind of see what it's referring to. And so if we're reading from chapter 2 this morning, and so if we go back to chapter 1, we kind of see the last time that Jesus was in Capernaum. And that time when he was there, he was healing people, he was performing miracles, he was speaking to all these large crowds. And one of the coolest verses in that whole chapter, verse 33, it says that the whole town gathered at the door of where he was. And so Jesus was sharing the good news of eternal life with these people. He was meeting their practical needs, and the whole town was following him just to see what he would do next. And so near the end of that chapter, we see Jesus kind of like he's taking all this time with his town, and so he kind of pulls back. He takes some time to pray and be alone, and then he goes to some other towns. And so in our verses here in chapter 2, when it says that Jesus again entered Capernaum, this is a big deal. Like the last time he was there, everybody was following him, hanging on every word, and so now he is back. And that's important for how our story starts out today, because Jesus wasn't preaching to a small crowd this day. Verse 2 says that they gathered in such large numbers that there was no room left, Not even outside the door. So this building that Jesus is in, totally full. Outside, totally full. And look, we're in a series called Where's the Party? We found the party. This is where the party was, where Jesus was this day. All these people in this town knew that he would be preaching. They knew that awesome things were about to happen, and they wanted to be a part of it. So let's keep reading. We'll pick back up in verse 3. We'll put this on the screen. It says, "Some men came, bringing to him a paralyzed man, carried by 4 of them. Since they could not get him to Jesus because of the crowd, they made an opening in the roof above Jesus by digging through it, and then lowered the mat the man was lying on." So there's all these people around listening to Jesus. There's no room inside. There's no room outside. But this group of friends, they wanted to bring their friend who was paralyzed to Jesus so that he could get healed. Now, he was paralyzed. He was relying on his friends to get him to Jesus. But because of the huge crowds, even though they got there, they couldn't get inside to see Jesus. But these friends were awesome. They didn't give up. So they climb up onto the roof. And the verse says that they dug through the roof to get in there. It was an old schoolhouse, and so they're digging through this roof to open it up, and they break through. They carry their friend up onto the roof, and then it says they lower his mat down into the building where Jesus is speaking. Isn't that crazy? Like, that is crazy. I've had some good friends in my life. I have never torn open a roof for anybody in my life. Like, that is next level friendship. These men, they wanted to get their friend to Jesus. So let's keep reading. Look at verse 5. It says, "When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralyzed man, 'Son, your sins are forgiven.'" So this man's paralyzed. His friends get him to Jesus. And what Jesus does is really cool. There's a lot of details in this chapter, but for this morning, it's just important to know that these men brought their friend to Jesus hoping that his physical condition would be healed. And he was paralyzed. Their hope that Jesus was that Jesus would heal him. And Jesus saw that physical impairment that he had, but that wasn't his first response, was to heal that. His first response was to heal him spiritually. So he saw that man's spiritual need, and that's where Jesus started, and then later he healed him physically as well. And so that man was healed physically and spiritually, and really it was because of the effort that these friends put in to help him to get him over to Jesus. And there's a lot of cool things that we can learn from the story. There's some things that we can learn from these men and how they took care of their friend. There's some things we can learn about this paralyzed man and how he put himself into a good position. So let's hop back into verse 3. Let's look at this. It says, "Some men came, bringing to him a paralyzed man, carried by 4 of them." So there's this paralyzed man. He can't walk. We don't have any idea about his past, but we know that he couldn't get himself to Jesus. So he's got these 4 friends that come to him, and they carry him to Jesus. They got him somewhere that he wasn't able to get to on his own. Let's look at the next verse. Keep reading in verse 4. It says, "Since they could not get him to Jesus because of the crowd, they made an opening in the roof above Jesus by digging through it and then lowered the mat the man was lying on." So these guys go get this man. They pick him up from wherever he was. They carry his mat over to Jesus, and then they can't even get to Jesus. So they go up on the roof. They tear through the roof, and then they bring him back up to the roof, and they're digging through, and they lower him down into the room. The only reason that man got into the room with Jesus, the only reason that he was able to experience Jesus that day, was the effort of his friends. Carrying him to that building, carrying him up on the roof, lowering him down inside. That effort was incredible. They did so much for him. And so my first question for you this morning is, who is carrying you? Who is carrying you? Who is supporting you? Who encourages you on a bad day? Who is getting you to where you need to be? So the summer is kind of winding down, and I think this is the best time of year to get to the beach. The crowds are kind of easing up after Labor Day. I think there's a rule in Delaware that after Labor Day, no Pennsylvania license plates are allowed on Route 1. Maybe I dreamed that. Maybe we should make that a rule. But no, it's a great time of year for the beach. We're finally getting waves, which is really cool too. And look, we got a ton of great beaches around here. And so I kind of want to pit you guys against each other and see what kind of rivalries are boiling under the surface. And so I want to know where your favorite beaches are, okay? And I'm not talking about like you went to the Home Depot, bought a couple bags of sand and put it in your backyard with a chair and you're saying, this is my beach. That doesn't count. I'm talking about like ocean, beach, real beach. So how many of you guys go to Lewis? How many is that your favorite beach? 2 people, 3 people. Okay, some more people coming out of the woodwork. How about Rehoboth? Anybody? Okay. Cape and Lopin State Park? Okay, that's the one. What about Dewey? Does anyone go to Dewey? Okay. And then how about the inlet? Inlet? Okay, if you own a longboard, you probably go to the inlet. And you sit there on your surfboard with the other 5,000 people in Delaware that own longboards and want to surf in the same exact spot. That's a great spot. What about those beaches kind of in between Dewey and the inlet, like Key Box Road and all those drive-on spots? Okay, those are some really, really cool beaches. Now, my family, we kind of grew up going to Rehoboth. We'd go like South Rehoboth, straight out from the boardwalk. That was like our spot growing up. And then the town of Rehoboth did like this beach dredging thing while we were growing up. And so the waves stopped breaking there and we needed to find a new spot. So we went out to Key Box Road. And so my brother and our friends, we found that spot. That spot is awesome. And so that's like a drive-on place. It's also like a great fishing place. When we were growing up, I haven't been there in a while, but growing up, there was nobody that would surf out there. And so it was just completely empty. If you weren't there on the weekend, you were kind of there alone. It's a really, really cool spot to go to. And so my brother and our friends, we started driving out there. And growing up, we loved the beach. We did all kinds of things at the beach. Skimboarding was kind of my thing, for better or worse. And my brother, his best favorite thing was bodyboarding. But we would kind of switch off. We kind of do both. And so this one day, we're out at Key Box Road. Nobody else on the beach. Literally nobody. No cars, no people, anything. We were the only car in the parking lot. And it was me and my brother and a few of our friends, probably like 5 or 6 of us. And so we're out there and we're having fun. We're kind of skimboarding a little bit and bodyboarding, kind of switching back and forth. And then my brother grabbed the skimboard, which he was decent at. He wasn't great at. Skimboarding was my thing, so I always kind of had some pride issues when he would try to skimboard. And so my brother took this wave on his skimboard, and it was lame. Let me just put it that way. It was lame. And so I'm the younger sibling, and so I kind of wanted to impress him and my friends. So I was kind of heckling him a little bit, and I was like, call that skimboarding? Is that the best you can do? And I said, let me show you how to do it. Have you guys seen that verse in the Old Testament that says something about pride comes before the fall? That verse is true. Spoiler alert, everything in the Bible is true. But I lived that verse, and I saw that verse be true. So I grab my board, and I tell my brother, I'm gonna show you how it's done. So I run out there, and I try to ride this wave, I fall off, and then the wave picks up my board, throws it back into my shin, or into my knee, and I get a giant hole in my leg. And man, what an embarrassing moment. I mean, I was like, let me show you how it's done, and then that happened. And so I'm limping back to the beach, pretending like I'm okay, and then I sat down, and I was like, man, my leg kind of hurts. And so I looked down, and I could see the bone in my leg. And I was like, that's why my leg hurts so much. And so, I was like, at that point, I was like, okay, I kind of messed up. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, I am on this remote beach. We are probably like a half a mile from where our car is parked. How in the world am I going to get back to that car? There's no way I can walk back over there. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm, what is going to go? What is happening? And so my brother and his friends, they come over, and they pick me up. They literally carried me like a quarter mile, half mile back to the car, carried me all the way back there, even after how arrogant I was. And they put me in the car, and they put something on my leg, and then they drove me over to BB and got it all fixed up. And it was like the coolest thing that they took care of me. They were there for me, even when I was not the coolest person that day. They were there. They were looking out for me, like they would take care of me. And it's so important to have people like that are looking out for us. It's so important for us to have people that are there to help us when we can't help ourselves. We need people in our lives who are there with us to enjoy the fun times, like hanging out at the beach, but we also need people that are there to take care of us when we're struggling. People that will carry us when we're down. Life has some amazing moments, but it also has some really tough moments where we need people in our lives that we can rely on to help us stay positive, to help us stay focused on our goals, and to help us stay on track with our faith. So who in your life is carrying you? Who in your life can you rely on to be there for you? Who prays for you? Who can you have fun with, but also have serious conversations with? When I messed up my knee and I needed to get to the hospital, I had my brother, I had my friends, they were there for me. We had fun together, but we also took care of each other. And if you think about the story, the paralyzed man, he had his 4 friends. They were willing to do anything to help him out. They wanted to see him get healed, and they went to great lengths, climbing up on that roof, digging through it just to see that man get healed. So who is in your life that helps you out when things get hard? Who is encouraging you? Who is reminding you of your goals? Who's your crew that is carrying you along? Because we all need those people. And if you think about this paralyzed man in the story, having these friends to take care of him, that's not something that just randomly happened to him. Let's look back at verse 3. Let's read this again. It says, some men came bringing to him a paralyzed man carried by 4 of them. So we don't know much about this paralyzed man. We don't know about his story. We don't know how he became paralyzed or if he was that way from birth. We don't know a lot about him, but what we can see in this verse is that he placed these people around him, people in his life that were willing and able and capable of helping him. He had the right people around him. And so when Jesus came back to town, and he knew when Jesus comes back to town, Jesus is going to be healing people. And so when Jesus came into town, he had these friends that dropped whatever they had going on, and they came to him to help him out. So here's our second question this morning. Who are you surrounding yourself with? Who are you surrounding yourself with? So how many of you guys were able to get out last weekend on the long weekend, enjoy some of that weather? It was beautiful last weekend. My brother and his family, they came into town, and so they wanted to go uptown to Funland. Now, I think Funland is awesome, but I avoid Funland like the plague in the middle of the summer because there's a lot of people, and a lot of people that are sweaty, and a lot of people that you were packed very close with, and it's just not something that I'm super into, but for family, for the end of the season, we were okay to make it happen. And so we went up there, and we went up to Funland, and his kids wanted to ride all the rides. And so we go up, and our son Taj, he's 2 years old, and so he goes up there, and I'm like, man, I want to get you on some of these kids' rides, like the little fire trucks and the little boats and all that stuff. And I was like, do you want to go on this by yourself? And he's like, not feeling it at all, like not at all. But then he saw the Sea Dragon, and he was super into the Sea Dragon. Now, if you guys don't know what the Sea Dragon is, it's this giant boat that like pendulums, like back and forth, like 50 feet, 100 feet up in the air. He was all about it. The "you must be this tall" sign is like 4 times higher than his height, so obviously that wasn't an option. But I really wanted to get him on some of those rides, and he's a little kid, but he can be brave, but like he kind of needs people that are older than him to help him out with that. And so, I was trying to get on these rides, but he just kind of needed some help. And so my sister's youngest son and my brother's youngest son, they're both a few years older than Taj. And so they saw that he wanted to ride this ride with these little cars that go around in circles. And so they ran over to ride it with him. We got a picture of them we can put up on the screen. So that's them. That's our son right here in the passenger seat. He's got his cousin in the driver's seat. He's got his other cousin in the back seat. Man, you see his face? He is psyched up. Like, he is so happy in this picture. And, that was such a cool moment. I thought it was so cool because these guys, they saw that he couldn't ride it by himself. He didn't have that confidence. He wasn't really feeling it. But when they came in and they hopped on with him, he was all about it. And that's what we need in our life. We need to be surrounding ourselves with people who are more qualified than us, people who are more experienced than us, people who are more capable than us. We need people that can help us get on the ride when we're not able to do it ourselves. Taj, he wanted to ride those cars, but he wasn't able to do it by himself. But then he had his buddies, and they stepped in, and they got him on that ride. And those are the kinds of people we need to be surrounding ourselves with. Now, I need an honest response to this question. How many of you guys have everything in life figured out? You got it all? You got the answers? None of us, right? None of us have all the answers. We all have our specific skill set. We have our strengths, but man, we also have some blind spots. We've got some weaknesses, and I like to think I'm a capable person. I work hard at whatever I do. I've had varied work experiences in all kinds of different jobs, different settings and industries, and I've had varied educational experiences, earning my degrees, and I've been on this earth for 33 years, making all kinds of mistakes and gaining experiences. And look, my takeaway from all of that is that I have some areas where I'm strong, but man, I've got a lot of areas in life where I just don't have the answers. I don't have the experience, I don't have the training or the knowledge, I just don't have it. And so in all the different jobs I've worked in, and all the different degree programs I've studied in, and just in general life, this is what I realized. There is always someone that is going to be smarter than me. There is always someone more capable than me. There is always someone with more experience than me. And so this is what I try to do. I have a lot of room to grow, and I want to grow. And so I try to surround myself with people that are excellent at what they do. Excellent in their work, excellent in their money, diligent with their faith. I want to be around people who are motivated to be great in their parenting and in their marriages. Man, I've been a parent for 2 years. That's nothing. I've been a spouse for only 8 years. And so I want to surround myself with people who are parents of older kids. I want to be around people who have been married for decades. In all areas of life, I try to be around people who have been living life longer than me and who have been pursuing excellence in their lives, because that's my goal. I want to make the most of the life that I have been given. I want to be the best that I can be. And if that's going to happen, I need to be surrounding myself with people that can carry me along, can show me the ropes, that can take me to the places I can't get on my own. And you think about the paralyzed man in the story, he had the desire to get to Jesus. He had the desire to get healed, but he couldn't make that happen on his own. He couldn't get up and just walk over to that house. He needed his friends, and his journey of healing, both physically and spiritually, it happened long before Jesus showed up that day. Before that day, this man placed people around him who could get him to the places that he wanted to go. So who are you surrounding yourself with? Who are the people that you're placing in your life? Are your friends, is your crew, are they made up of people who are content with where they're at? People who are lacking in ambition, who don't have a desire to grow? Or are you hanging around people who have already accomplished the goals that you have for your life? People who have experience, people who have drive, people who can show you how to make the most of your life. If you want to be the best that you can be, the best Jesus follower, the best parent, the best spouse, the best friend, you need to be around people who are modeling that. People who are living it, people who can show you the ropes. Earlier I shared that story of Taj and the rides and how he needed his friends to kind of get him on that ride. Well, right after that ride, they hopped off the little cars, and he got off, and I was like, do you want to do any more rides today? And he pointed over at the fire trucks. He's like, I want to do the fire trucks. And so I was like, all right. So he runs over there, and he gets in line for the fire trucks, and his cousins run over behind him. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, they're all going to hop on together. And so he goes in. He's the first one in line. And he goes in, he finds this fire truck, and he hops in all by himself. Nobody else in the fire truck. And then his two cousins, they kind of hop in like behind him on the fire truck behind him. We got a picture we can put up. Look at that. Look at that dude. He's ringing the bell. He is all by himself, and he has the biggest smile. His two cousins are behind him, but he is in that ride by himself, doing it by himself. And because his friends showed him the ropes, because his friends gave him that confidence and that experience, he was able to then go and do it himself. The paralyzed man in this story, he needed his friends to get him to Jesus. But the cool thing is that when he left that day, he didn't need the help of his friends. Let's look at verse 12. Let's put this on the screen. It says, he got up, that's the paralyzed man, took his mat, and walked out in full view of them all. It's amazed everyone, and they praised God. His friends brought him to Jesus. Jesus healed him, and then he walked out on his own. He couldn't get there on his own, but through the help of his friends and through the healing of Jesus, he was able to stand up and walk out of there on his own. There are so many decisions that we make in life that have huge consequences, and a lot of time we make those decisions just us. Whether we are signing the mortgage paperwork or whatever we are doing, we are usually by ourselves making those decisions. And those decisions we have a lot of hefty decisions we have to make. How we allocate our time, how to nurture a relationship with our spouse, how to raise our children, how to handle our money and our resources. And when we make those choices, we can either just do what feels right, do what comes natural, do what seems best to us, or we can rely on the wisdom of the people that we've placed around us. We can rely on their experience and their knowledge. Surrounding ourselves with people that have shared values, that have shared ambition and drive, that is how we strive to make the most of the lives that God has given us. So I've given you guys a couple questions today. Who's carrying you? Who are you surrounding yourself with now? Now let me give you some answers, or at least some suggestions of how you can find the right people to place in your life. People who will challenge you to grow in your relationship with Jesus. People who will challenge you to strive for greatness in life. The paralyzed man in these verses, he had 4 friends who cared about him and took him to Jesus. They were concerned with his physical needs, but they were also concerned with his spiritual needs. So let's look at verse 5. We'll put this up. It says, when Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralyzed man, "Son, your sins are forgiven." Whose faith did Jesus see? His friends. He saw the faith of the friends. They believed that if they got their friend in the room with Jesus, Jesus was capable and able to heal him. So it was their faith that Jesus saw. And Jesus says here to the men, "Son, your sins are forgiven." Now when Jesus says this, he wouldn't have said, "Son, your sins are forgiven," if this man was already following Jesus. There would have been no need to say that. His sins would have already been forgiven. And so what we can see here is that this right here is the first time this man experienced Jesus' love. It was the first time he experienced Jesus' love and his forgiveness. And later he stands up and he walks out. He's healed with his physical needs and his spiritual needs. His friends brought him to Jesus, caring about his spiritual needs, and that completely changed this man's life. We need people in our lives who are looking out for our spiritual needs and looking out for our practical needs. We need people who care about our relationship with Jesus that will check in and say, "Hey, have you been praying this week? Have you been reading your Bible? How can I pray for you? What things can I do for you? Can I come to church with you on Sunday?" We need people like that, people that are caring about our relationship with Jesus. We also need people that care about the everyday things in life. They'll say, "Hey, man, I feel like you've probably been having a hard week of work. How are things going? What's new with your family? What's new with your kids?" We need people that care about our spiritual needs and our everyday needs. And so as you're looking for people who will support you and encourage you, man, I believe the best place to start is with a small group. And we have small groups here at Bay Shore. We call them Bay Shore groups. They're small groups that meet at the church and meet all around in our local community. They meet on golf courses. They meet in coffee shops, on bike paths, in bowling alleys, and in homes all around our city. And the heart behind groups is this. Your group is your crew. These are your people who will be by your side celebrating the good things in life, people who are there to help you and encourage you in the difficult times, people who are with you, people who are growing in their relationship with Jesus alongside of you. And so we've got 13 groups at our campus here, but at Bay Shore, we've got multiple campuses. We've got 31 groups across all of our campuses. And look, if you look at our groups, I believe that there's a group for everyone. But if you look at our groups and you think, "There's not really a great fit for me," man, we are all about giving you the tools to help you start a group that is a fit for you. And this fall, we've got 4 new groups starting, and I'm really pumped about them. And I think some of you are going to find your crew with some of these new groups that we have and some of our existing groups. Let me tell you about some of our new groups. The first one is Nick and Kira's group. Nick and Kira are amazing. They're starting a group called Youngish Couples, which is an amazing name, okay? So this group is for married couples that are in their late 20s to early 40s. So a pretty big, a broad range there, and I think that's such a cool name. I like to think of myself as young-ish, but sometimes I wake up and my back hurts, and I'm not as youngish as I think I am. So I fit right in this category, and so this is cool. They're going to be meeting on Thursday nights at Nick and Kira's house, and this is going to be such a great group. They're going to be starting up in a few weeks. And then next group, Susanna. Susanna is going to lead a young adults group. So this group is for anyone married, single, anything in your 20s and early 30s. So they're a group that's going to get together. They're going to have fun. They're going to do fun events and also have a Bible study portion to their group. So that's going to be a really cool group. They're going to be starting up in a few weeks. And then the next group is Shirley. Shirley, this is the best title of any of our groups. It is the Beach Boomers. Amazing title, okay? And so this is for anyone 55 and up. This is a cool group. They're going to be focused on doing some Bible study, looking at the message content, and then also they're going to be focused on caring for each other's needs and kind of caring for the needs of people in our church. So this is a really cool group. They're going to start up in October. And then Amy, got a picture of Amy. Amy is going to be leading a group called the Bay Shore Bowlers. Okay, so they're going to get together once a month, and they're going to bowl. And they're going to hang out. They're going to pray for each other, read a devotion, and they're just going to have fun hanging out and bowling. And so we've got a lot of really cool groups. The leaders for all of these groups are here today. They are going to be out in the lobby after the service. They would love to meet you. They would love to chat with you, answer any questions you have. Now, I'm an introvert, okay? So that means that I usually don't like having conversations with people during the week. And so if you're like me and you're like, man, these groups sound cool, but I don't want to talk to anybody to sign up for that group, man, we got you covered, okay? On the back of the chair in front of you, there's a QR code. That'll take you to bayshore.online. You can sign up for groups that way, and then you'll have to talk when you get to the group. I just got to tell you that, but at least at this point, you can kind of avoid it. But look, man, joining a group, that is a great way to find your people. And another way to find your people is by joining one of our serving teams. So every Sunday, we've got around 40 volunteers that are all over the church, that are upstairs in the parking lot. They're down here in the lobby. They're making coffee. They're running cameras and caring for our kids, doing all kinds of things. And these volunteers do so many practical things to make Sunday special. But one thing you may not notice, if you're not on one of these teams, is the connections that our volunteers make with each other while they're serving. Our serving teams are about accomplishing things, but they're also about building connections with each other. And so if you want to find a group of people that you can accomplish some things with on a Sunday morning and make Sundays special, but also have people that care about you, that are praying for you. People on our guest services team show up for their friends that are also serving when they're in the hospital. They throw parties for each other when they're leaving town. And our volunteers care about each other. And they are like mini groups, mini families in these different teams. And so if you're looking for your crew, our serving teams can be your answer. And the best way to be a part of that is something we have called Next Steps. So Next Steps is a way for you to learn about our church. It's a 4-session class that we do a couple times a year. The next one's coming up in October, and so you'll learn about our church, but you'll also learn about your personality and your fit with a serving team. And our goal with that is to help you find your people that can be your serving team fit, that really matches you. And so Next Steps, we'll be talking about it. It's going to come up in October. You can also sign up for that on bayshore.online. But look, whether you find your crew through a group or through a serving team, what matters is that you connect. What matters is that you connect with other people who have that shared goal of living for Jesus. In a group or on a serving team, you're going to be surrounded by people that care about you, people who will encourage you and who will be a support system for you as you go through life. And look, the reason that I'm passionate about groups, the reason I'm passionate about serving teams is because of the impact that I've seen them have. And I've seen it in my life. I share that story about my friend Danny. And look, man, I only met him because he was in a small group. And because I joined that small group, I had a friend that was there for me on the worst day of my life and the best day of my life. And somebody who means so much to me. And look, I've seen so many people in our church impacted positively by serving teams and groups. And I desire for everyone to experience that peace and that comfort that comes when you've got a support system in life. When you've got people that you know you can rely on, that you know are caring about you and who you know will carry you along when you need them. The man in this story, he needed his friends to get to where he wanted to go. And surrounding himself with those men, it changed his life. So how would your life change if you had people that were looking out for you? If you had people who were praying for you every day? If you had people who were motivating you to live for Jesus and to be great at life? Let's pray. God, I thank you so much for who you are and how much you care about us. And I thank you that you surround us with other people that experience similar struggles, similar difficulties. And I pray, God, that you would help us to find people that can be that encouragement to us, that can be that support system to us, that can help us when we're struggling in life, that can help us to be great at life, that can help us to learn more about you. And I just thank you for who you are. I thank you for a church where we can all meet and praise you, Lord. And I pray that you would bless everyone in this room and give them a wonderful, wonderful week. Pray this in your name. Amen.